Hayao Miyazaki is a legendary Japanese animator and storyteller. His films feature breathtaking landscapes and strong, fully fleshed out characters that draw us into their world. As adults, humans depend upon various forms of media to escape the pressures and stress of everyday life. There is a desire to recapture the wonder of childhood and be inspired socially. Miyazaki-san's films, like Princess Mononoke, Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind, Spirited Away, and Howl's Moving Castle, represent this desire to recreate one's youth. Even though Hayao Miyazaki's films seem designed for children, adults watch his films for nostalgia because these films are a method of escapism from everyday life. So what is nostalgia? Well, the Oxford Dictionary defines nostalgia as a sentimental longing or wistful affection for a period in the past. Miyazaki-san's films encapsulate our desire to escape from everyday life by creating a sense of nostalgia for a simpler time, like childhood. And while Miyazaki-san was surely targeting those in Japan or of Japanese heritage, his films certainly resonate as one of yearning for a world that may be lost. Miyazaki-san speaks often on nostalgia and what it means to adults and children alike. He's quoted saying, "I often refer to this feeling as one of yearning for a lost world." It's a sense that, although you may currently be living in a world of constraints, if you were freed from those constraints, you would be able to do all sorts of things. This theme of nostalgia can be found in 3 different forms throughout his movies. Spiritual nostalgia, which is a desire to return to a time when religion and spirituality were prevalent. Environmental nostalgia, in which one longs for a time prior to industrialization of the planet. And youthful nostalgia, where one yearns to return to a time when they were younger, more innocent, and pure. This is all well and good, this theme of nostalgia, but why do we turn to films and storytellers for this feeling? To gratify our need to escape our everyday lives? Make us feel better about our current situations? Maybe we watch these movies to be entertained. The uses and gratifications paradigm is a theory that involved a bunch of different sociologists spanning many decades. Thanks to Herta Herzog and her study into why women enjoyed radio soap operas in 1944, incredible studies have been done, branching out into other theories like entertainment theory and mood management theory. But let's just for a second get back to the uses and gratifications. So it ultimately comes down to this. We, as audience members, actively seek out various forms of media to achieve gratification. It's a little bit hedonistic in that aspect. So we move on to entertainment theory. This is the theory that conceptualizes and explicates key psychological mechanisms underlying audience use and enjoyment of entertainment-oriented media content. And those are a lot of big words, so let's break it down. According to Barron and Davis, theorists who study this branch of audience effects research are attempting to understand what entertaining media content does to us. And those that subscribe to this particular theory don't put much stock in our analytical and observational skills either. We're watching it for fun. So we move on to mood management theory. It's the theory that says, simply put, we use entertainment and media to make ourselves feel better or to distract ourselves from going down the dark, scary path of feelings. Audiences just want to feel good and escape from the everyday pressures of adulting because really, who wants to go to work every day? And let's face it, Confucius is wrong about loving your job and never working a day in your life. Everyone gets exhausted at some point. But now for a little real-world application. Let's go back to Miyazaki and the 4 films I mentioned a little bit ago. These films all have something wonderful and great about them. I could speak for days on all of them and more as Miyazaki-san continues to come out of retirement repeatedly. So Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind was created in 1984 and is the story of a princess, and she is a princess. By Disney rules, she's a princess.
If you wear a dress and you have an animal sidekick, you're a princess.
In a post-apocalyptic world that has been destroyed at the hands of humanity's own creation. The result is a toxic forest that poisons humans without gas masks upon entry. Giant creatures that ultimately know this forest is there to actually cleanse the earth protect this forest. Miyazaki-san created this story in response to the mercury poisoning of Minamata Bay that occurred in the 1950s and what humans are currently doing to the planet. The film is filled with reference to spiritual and environmental nostalgia. The humans of this future Earth desire a time of peace and safety. This theme runs through each of his films, like the destruction of entire forests or the use of guns, gunpowder, and explosives to destroy the natural world and its creatures in Princess Mononoke. The characters in these films observe no official religion, but themes from the Buddhist ideology of evil are present in each film. Greed, violence, and delusion. Miyazaki-san also incorporated Shinto themes as well. In older Shinto practices, women were typically intermediaries between the gods and the people, or between the rulers and the people. Nausicaa functions in much the same way as the arbitrator between the people of the valley, the other clans, and the giant creatures of the toxic forest. Miyazaki-san sees a lack of spiritual observation as humanity moved toward the end of the millennium, as well as a distinct negligence for the Earth's environment. Nausicaa was his attempt to bring attention to these inadequacies and allow audiences to embrace the nostalgia for a time when humanity relied heavier on the spiritual and the environment was more whole. In the same vein, Miyazaki-san created Princess Mononoke, the tale of a young exiled prince whose only desire is to see with eyes unclouded by hate, and a young girl who is raised by wolf gods. This film takes place in an alternate universe in 14th century Japan. The clans featured in this film either embraced spirituality or turned from it, instead embracing the fires of industry. Miyazaki-san incorporated sweeping landscapes and scenic mountain views, paying homage to a land that seems to no longer exist in our overpopulated and highly industrial society. The impact that humanity has on the natural world is devastating, and it's shown through the interactions between the gods of the old world and the humans that clear the forests that are their home. The prince, Ashitaka, while he may be exiled, he is a prince nonetheless, and comes to the aid of Princess Mononoke, saving her on multiple occasions. This, along with the gods and demons embodied in the film, allows viewers to escape into a fairy tale world that reminds them of their childhood. The film, Spirited Away, functions in much the same way. It is the story of a lazy, young, sullen girl who goes on an adventure into a magical amusement park with her family. By the end of the story, her character has evolved, and while she's still just a 10-year-old girl, she has become much more self-reliant and responsible. This film takes place in modern times. However, once the family crosses into the amusement park, they enter the spirit realm. It feels ancient, not in an aged sense, but the inhabitants are spirits and demons, giving a major sense of spiritual nostalgia. According to Susan Napier and her article Matter Out of Place, Carnival Containment and Cultural Recovery in Miyazaki's Spirited Away, this form of nostalgia privileges the literally ghostly past as an alternative to the mundane present, once again offering that escape from a current situation, which in Spirited Away, the current situation is that the young girl is moving to a new town. It's hard for any 10-year-old. So perhaps the film that is most representative of youthful nostalgia, though, is Howl's Moving Castle. This is the tale of a hatter's daughter, Sophie, who is placed under a curse and eventually falls in love with the titular character Howl, breaking her own curse. However, Howl does promise to help her on the way. The characters in Howl's Moving Castle all struggle with aging in some form or another. Howl never wants to grow up and take responsibility for anything. Sophie grew up too quickly because of the death of her father. The Witch of the Waste never wants to grow old and does all she can to remain young and beautiful. Most people feel unfulfilled by their lives and their experiences. Films like the ones created by Hayao Miyazaki allow those people to escape the mundane, the unsatisfactory, and live out fantasy lives through his characters. Whether they long for a more spiritual lifestyle, an earth that is more pure and less technologically advanced and industrialized, or they desire to relive their youth, these moments of nostalgia are captured in a therapeutic way. Hayao Miyazaki's techniques of hand-drawing his films even contribute to the way his films are experienced. The scenery, the landscapes, and cityscapes he creates invoke a sense of awe. People are responsible for their own happiness and finding their own joy. Consuming these films can regulate and alter moods and be uplifting and positive experiences. Like the destruction of entire forests or the use of guns, gunpowder, and explosives. Outtakes. You're part of the outtakes. This theme, the end of the millennium. Come on, let's get at it. No, you don't get to be on TV either. In older Shinto practices, women were typically intermediaries between the gods and the people. In older Shinto practices,